So our next talk, designed for wellness, how sound and color shape experience, will explore how color acoustics can collaborate to shape how we experience a space, emotionally, sensorially, and functionally. This talk will be led by Elettra de Pellegrin, architect, founder, and CEO of Slalom Acoustics, and also our wonderful sponsor of the event, who provided these fabulous totems and the stage backdrop, and also the acoustical trees that you can see around the space. So really, we soundproofed the room in style. It's very fabulous. Elettra is an architect, acoustical expert, and founder of Slalom, a leading company in sustainable acoustic design with years of experience creating technically innovative and colorful acoustic solutions. So let's give a big round of applause for Elettra.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here and to focus today on this topic of, of color and sound, how it's shaping experience, which is a topic that I love, but honestly, we all should, because we spend most of our lives inside design environments. Airports, me in particular a lot, but also offices, hospitals, or trade shows like this one. But we rarely stop and ask ourselves, how do those spacing are making us feel? And this is pretty natural, because long before consciously evolving the space, our body has already reacted to it. And let me ask you something very simple. When was the last time you have entered a space and felt immediately more calmer, more connected, and even more present, without knowing why? And without knowing why. And that happens sometimes through the light, that happens through the colors, and that happens also through sounds and noise. And some other times, all those elements align. And that feeling is not accidental. Some spacing, they do look calm, but they sound stressful. Some other space, they are emotionally very interesting, but then they are so, again, very stressful and exhausting. When what we see and what we hear do not align, our brain spends so much energy trying to reconcile those sensory elements. And studies about multisensory tells that people naturally seek to cohesion of senses. And when a place feels wrong, we do blame lights, or we do blame layouts. At Slalom, of course, we do blame noise, as we are dealing with acoustic issue every day. But what if the answer is not only in one unique factor? What if it is about their cohesion? Neuroscience suggests that we do not perceive environmental interiors as one isolated channel, but we do feel the ecosystem, the connection between them, and this is very important, because sound affects the attention, but then colors, they do affect emotion, and materials, they do affect the comfort, white light. Light is affecting so much the stress. And all those factors together, they are determining how much time we spend in one space, how connected we feel, and how much mental energy we simply spend in processing the space. Our brain is always negotiating space. When sensories are aligned, our nervous system can relax. And we immediately feel more connected, more focused. We want to stay longer, and sometimes without even cognitively recognizing why. And that's simply how easy we can speak about well-being, where wellness is naturally associated with the idea of luxury. But what if instead is simply the ability of get regulated, to be able to think, to connect, to decide, without having our body getting into a constant alarm and negotiation. It's, sorry. When our brain is so forced to listen and to filter the visual, to filter the, thank you, and to filter the, yes, I got something, thank you. And to filter the visual stimuli, less sources are left for more important activities like concentrating or thinking. Moreover, if we do add the visual stimuli like strong colors or constant movement or an eye monitor effect, our perceptual status does enter an overload. And this is when data are able to make visible that the well-being is not only emotional, but is about feeling the emphasis, feeling the environment. And these factors of noise, of visual stimuli, of sense of imbalance, they do shape our experience of space. And this is when the data are helping in getting the pattern becoming more visible. There are studies that are helping us about the well-being in officing, in understanding that spacing with an acoustic well-being are able to improve our way to focus, to less our fatigue, to improve our productivity, and even our ability of perception of well-being. At the same time, we know that visual scenarios are able to regulate and influence our emotional and our cognitive systems. And here we see all the data, but data are to us not the most interesting thing. Data are something that has a human consequence behind. And design can play a big role. So what if, instead of asking ourselves to separate question, what is the best acoustic performance, or what is the best color palette, we do simply integrate in one unique question. How do we want people to feel in the space? More calm, more connected, more focus, because sound and color are not competing systems, but they are collaborators. And of course, naturally, different emotional scenarios are able to reconnect with different sensory landscape. And that's why some spacing can connect, some spacing can focus, some spaces can energize, and that's why a waiting room does not need the same emotional atmosphere of a site-specific installation in a museum, or that's why a lounge in an hospitality does not require the same sensitive stimulus of a brainstorming area. So design is no longer only aesthetic, but it's the possibility of entering emotional microclimates. As designer, as I am an architect, we have the great opportunity of choreographing whole sense scenario. Either we are designing workspaces or hospitality or spacing where we are spending very short time, we are shaping experience. Where what is visible can touch and elevate to the invisible. And believe it or not, even acoustic can become less intimidating and less scientific. And as Italian, and as my accent, of course, that feeling is not so strange, because long ago, before neuroscience or before any sort of data, the Italian design masters were already understanding that color is never decoration. It's about identity, it's about an atmosphere. And if we want to understand, we need to analyze the work of the historical interiors to understand how much influence they can have in our aesthetic world. Of course, if we want to connect with that idea of overall well-being we were mentioning. And so names like Gio Ponti, he was using color to soften experience or to embrace and elevate the daily experience to a large space. Or other architects like Ettore Sottsass. His work is almost like a musical. It's becoming a rhythm. He has an expression. It's sound made visible. On the other side, masters like Achille Castiglioni, his research was more interested into clarity, into reduction. This is what we would call today cognitive calm. But they all were not designing for the look. They were composing experience. And their interior were never completely neutrals. But they had a temperature, they had a character where we could walk inside the interiors and feeling emotionally this transition of space even before knowing the space rationally. So maybe neuroscience today is just putting into data what those masters had already in mind. But back to the future. Today, we have all the ingredients to work in the context. We do have history. We have scientific data. We have color forecast. And we do have inspiration. So simply, we could start a process where we could explore and find a new color palette, to translate them into new shadows of wall colors, which is not merely the dress of an acoustic support, but is the possibility to create a new emotional scenario. Of course, with the connection of architecture, of light, to elevate to the next level. And this opens up many possibilities of languages where we need not to stop at absorption as an invisible infrastructure of our spacing, but to elevate to a state of emotion and atmospheres through colors, through patterns, through palettes, even if we are designing restaurants or we are designing workspace. We all should embrace the versatility to open up even to personal languages. And all those spacing, they have in common to me the wish that their feeling may matter more than the way they are represented. Because people may forget about specification, may forget about materials, may forget about colors, but they will never forget how a space has made them feel. Thank you.